Hey there, and welcome to The Explainer. You know, when you're in the grocery aisle, you look at two jars of ghee, and you just have to wonder, why is one so much more expensive than the other? Well, today, we're going to get to the bottom of it. We are diving deep into the world of premium ghee.
Right. Let's just get straight to it. This is the question, isn't it? You see a regular jar, and then right next to it there's this stuff, usually called A2 ghee, with a price tag that can be, honestly, a little shocking, sometimes 10 times the price. So what's the deal? Is it just some clever marketing, or is there actually something real behind that cost? Well, let me tell you. The answer starts with the cows. And it all boils down to this one tiny genetic difference in the milk they produce. It's all about the type of protein. You see, most of the ghee out there comes from milk that's full of something called A1 protein. But that premium A2 ghee, that comes from milk that only has A2 protein. And that one little difference, believe it or not, changes absolutely everything. So first up, let's unpack that. To really get why one jar costs so much more, we have to go all the way back to the source. And we're talking about some very special cows. So what is A2 ghee? Well, it's ghee that comes from the milk of very specific indigenous cow breeds. The most famous one is the Ghee cow from India. Now, what makes these cows so unique is that their milk naturally contains only the A2 type of beta-casein protein. This isn't some new thing. This is actually the original protein structure that's been around for thousands of years. Okay, so what's the big deal about this A2 protein, right? Well, its advocates, and that includes a lot of dietitians and doctors, claim it makes the ghee way easier to digest. For anyone with a sensitive stomach, that's a huge plus. It's also talked up as having a better, more superior nutritional profile when you compare it to the standard A1 stuff. All right, so it's from rare cows, and they produce this special kind of milk. But is that really enough to justify that massive price tag? Let's dig a little deeper in our next section, the price of purity. This is where we get into the how. You know, this quote really puts it all into perspective. The idea is that you're not just grabbing another item off the shelf. You're actually investing in a whole philosophy, one that's built on tradition, on meticulous quality, and on real hands-on craftsmanship. And get this, to make just one single liter of this ghee, it takes, wait for it, between 25 and 30 liters of that precious A2 milk. 25 to 30? I mean, when you really think about that, about the sheer volume of the core ingredient you need, that high price starts to make a whole lot more sense. And we're not talking about some massive industrial factory line here. This is the complete opposite. It's made using an ancient process called the Vedic Bilona method, and it's a multi-day hands-on job. First, the whole milk is boiled, cooled, and then turned into curd. Then that curd is actually hand-churned, often with a wooden churner in clay pots, to painstakingly separate the butter. And finally, that butter is slow-heated to clarify it into pure ghee. It's slow, it's laborious, and it's all about tradition. Okay, so we've got the rare cows and we've got this incredibly labor-intensive process. But what's the payoff? Why are people willing to make that investment? Well, that brings us to the next part, which is all about why it's seen as a tradition of health. And this is the key, really. A2 ghee, especially when it's made the traditional way, is valued for way more than just its flavor. It's highly regarded for its nutritive and even therapeutic properties. People don't just cook with it, they add it to their diets for a feeling of total well-being. So let's break down what's supposedly packed in there. We're talking a powerhouse of healthy fats for sustained energy. It's got something called CLA, or conjugated linoleic acid, which is linked to heart health. It has omega-3s to support your body's cells. It's got antioxidants to help fight off damage from free radicals. And it has butyric acid, which is known to be fantastic for keeping your gut lining healthy. Okay, but whenever you have a premium product with a premium price, you have to ask, how do you know you're getting the real deal? How can you be sure it's the authentic, traditionally made stuff? This section is all about a key sign to look for. So let's tackle a really common question. You finally buy that beautiful, expensive jar of ghee. You open it up and you see it's kind of grainy. Your first thought might be, oh no, did this go bad? Is it spoiled? A lot of people think that. But the real answer is pretty surprising because actually that grainy texture is a good thing. It's what's known as danadar in India, and it's considered a hallmark of purity and authenticity. This happens because the slow cooling process, which is part of that traditional method, allows the fatty acids to crystallize. So far from being a flaw, that texture is actually proof that you've got the real traditionally crafted stuff. All right, let's bring this all home. We've talked about the genetics, the long process, the potential health benefits, and even how to spot the authentic stuff. In our last section here, we're going to put it all together to help you make a smart choice.
So let's just lay it all out, side by side. With A2 ghee cow ghee, you're starting with indigenous cows and that unique A2 protein. The production is the traditional Bilona method, and its key marker is purity and tradition. On the other hand, with regular ghee, you're often starting with various, sometimes foreign breeds and mostly A1 protein. The production is usually commercial, and its defining feature is mass production.
So really, it all comes down to this final thought. The choice between these two kinds of ghee, it's about more than just what you're eating. It asks a much bigger question. In a world that's all about speed and mass production, what's the value we put on tradition, on craftsmanship, and on a real connection to where our food comes from? That's definitely something to chew on next time you're standing in that grocery aisle. Thanks for joining me on The Explainer.